Hello everyone, welcome to the course. In this course, we will explore about a SQL. So SQL stands for a structured query language, right? So it is a standard language for storing, manipulating, and retrieving data in databases. So in this SQL course, I'll teach you how to use a SQL in Postgres, and later on we'll be exploring about different database systems as we proceed. In this course, I'll be giving a lot of assignments as well as challenges so that it will be helpful for your interview preparations, as well as like if you want to make a career transition into a data analyst or a data science or big data. So this course will help you to get the fundamentals. So we are starting with the very basics, that is from the beginner level. As we proceed, as we keep on going, so even we'll test the advanced topics as well as we complete a lot of projects. So let's get started. Okay, first let's create a database. To create database, this is what the syntax is. Let me first write the syntax. So we have a create keyword. Okay, so that is create. Then database is also a keyword, and here you need to enter the database name. Okay, so this is what the syntax to create the database. So now let's create a simple database. So create database, and I need to pass the database name, so I'll just give it as test db. So let me run this query. So let me refresh my server, and here you can find the test db is created. Now let's drop the database. To drop the database, this is what the syntax is. So drop keyword, then a database keyword, database, and you need to give the database name. Fine. So I have this database called demo. So let's drop that. So drop database demo. So let me run this. You can see drop database query done successfully. So if I try to refresh, it should not show up. Yes, you can see. So demo database has been removed. So now let's learn how to create a table. To create a table, so right now you can see I'm in this test db, right? So which I created just a few minutes back. So now let's create this a table, some employee table inside this test db. So first let's discuss the syntax. So let me write here a syntax. So the syntax for this will be create keyword, create, create. Basically, I'm creating a table. Then I need to pass a table name, table name. Open the brackets, and within the brackets, you need to mention column, column. Okay, you assume like you have n number of columns. So right now, this is will be my column one, and its data type. Fine. So we need to add the comma to go to the next column. So let me add one more column, column 2, and its data type. It's n here. Sorry. Yeah. So this way, if we have multiple columns, we can just add all those columns here. And column 3 and its data type. Right? So this is what the syntax is. So now let's create some sample table. To create a sample table, so let me create it here. So create table, and I'll just name my table as EMP employee. Let me open the brackets. Yeah, so first let's add employee ID. Employee ID, employee ID. This could be of int data type. Then the first name of varchar. So it will have 255 characters max length. So let me add comma here. So the next is first name of varchar. Let's add 255 the max length. Then you can add address or city. Okay, let's add city. Let's add age first. Age of int, and finally let's add a city of varchar 255. Fine. So this is what the table I have created. So let me back this. Yeah, so I've created a table called EMP. Okay. So here we have um, different columns. So we have employee ID of integer data type, then we have first name varchar, and this is not a first name, this is the last name of varchar. Then we have age and city. Okay, so let's create this table. So we need to create this table. Let me select this and execute. You can see the query returned successfully. So if I try to expand this test DB and inside the schema, so right now we have a public schema, right? So if I try to get into this table, so right now we have employed. So by default it has selected the public schema. Okay, so whenever you're creating a table, okay, without mentioning the schema, so it will be by default created inside the public schema, and you can find this employee table over here. And from here you can just check all the columns as well, like employee ID, first name, last name, age, and the city. Fine. So now let's see how we can alter the table. Fine. So alter table statement is used to add, delete, or modify the columns in existing table. So even we can use this alter a table command to add and drop the various constraints on the existing table. So first let me show you the syntax. Okay. So the syntax could be like alter table. So this is what the keywords. Then to give a table name, this is the table name. Then assume like we are adding a new column here, right? So add, then you need to give the column name and its data type. Fine. So this is what the syntax is. So let's alter the table. So so we have created this EMP table, right? So let me modify that. So let me add one more column called email. Okay, so let's alter that table. So alter table. So my table name is EMP, and add okay, let me enter add. I'm adding the email, and its data type could be a varchar of 255 max length. So let me run this. Yeah, so here you can see alter table successfully executed. Okay, so right now if I just refresh these columns once again, so I can find the email, right? So this is how we alter the existing table. So now let's see how we can drop the table, right? So the syntax to drop a table is a drop keyword and the table name, a table. Okay, drop table, and you need to mention the table name. Okay, this is what the syntax is. Fine. So let's drop this EMP table. Okay, so which we created just now. So let me drop that. So that is a drop table, and the table name is EMP. So let me run this. So drop table successfully executed. So if I try to refresh under the tables now, so you can see I don't have any tables. Fine. So now let's see how we can insert the values inside a table, right? So we have seen how to create a table, how to drop a table. Now let's see how we can insert values inside a table. So previously I've just dropped it. So let me create this table once again. So create table EMP, and it has different columns like employee ID, first name, last name, age, and the city, right? So I've just created this table. So now let me insert some values inside the table. Okay, to add the values inside the table, so first let me explain the syntax. Fine. So this is what the syntax is. So let me write it here. Syntax. So let me add the syntax. So this is how the syntax is. So we have insert, we have insert, insert into, and a table name. Then need to give the columns, like this is column 1, column 2. Mention, basically need to mention all the columns here. Fine. So call 3, and what are the different columns you have. Fine. So then you need to insert, then you need to add a keyword called a values. Okay, and you need to enter the value here, like value 1, then value 2, and value 3. So depending upon like how many columns you have, you need to insert the values. Okay, so now let me let's let insert the values inside this EMP, right? So that is employee ID, first name, last name, age, and the city, right? So let me insert. So insert into EMP, and so columns. So if I, you hear a call, you can just check it. So if I refresh this, right? So we have a different columns here, that is employee ID, employee ID, first name, then a last name, age, and city, right? So then the values, so employee ID I'll add 1, the first name I'll add uh, let me add a Sagar, and the last name as Raju, age, and city. Fine. So let me run this. It's taking too long to complete the query. Yeah, so here you can see, so query returned successfully. So there's one insert, so you can add the multiple inserts, like if I copy the same thing, and let me add insert into employee. So let me add 2, and let me add Imran MT 23 and Bangalore. So let me insert this also. Yeah, so if I want to see the data, right? So we'll explore this select statement in detail. Okay, so to check the data inside my table, that is select star from, so it's inside this public, right? Public schema, and the table name is EMP. So let me run this. I'll explain this select statement in upcoming video, right? Yeah, you can see I'm able to insert the record inside this EMP table. So if you have multiple data, so this is how we manually insert it, right? So Fine. So now let's explore about the select statement. So select statement basically is used to select the data from database. So you have some table created in some database, and if you want to see all the data, so we'll be using the select statement. The syntax for the select statement is very simple. Okay, so we have a select keyword. Then we have something like star. So here the star represents all the columns. Okay, so let me explore this about the star later on. Fine. So as of now, what is the star? So star basically represents all the columns in my table. Fine. And from keyword, I need to mention the table name. Okay, so this is the proper syntax, table name. So in Postgres, okay, you need to give the schema also. Okay, if you are working in some public schema, you need to give like public. Okay, so let me add it here as a schema. Okay, so even you can add the DB here also, okay, for the complete path or in which database and in which schema and what is the table you're selecting it. Okay, so even that is also correct. Okay, this is the syntax for the select statement. So here I have a table called dim product. Okay, so inside this table I have different columns, like I have a product, some primary key, then have a product ID, then product name, category and subcategory. Fine. So this is what the different columns in my table. So now let me explore, let me see like all the data in my table. Okay, to check all the data in my table, so this is what the syntax is, which I have already written above, right? So let me add it once again, let me write it once again. That is a select star. So star represents I want all the columns, that is a product pk, product name, category and subcategory. So from, and the schema here is a dim product. So I'm inside this schema called staging. Okay, let me add this schema name as staging. And so the table name here is a dim product. Fine. So dim underscore product. Fine. And so here I'm just showing you how we can just use the select statements, right? It's not like you need to follow the same thing. So even in the previous sections, like we have seen how to create a table, how to create a database, how to drop the database, and we have seen all those things in our previous sessions, right? So now so if I want to check all the data in my table, okay, so this is what we'll be using the select statement, right? So here I'm just mentioning once again, because you know need to what practice the same stuff, okay, what I'm doing, okay, so that I'll not be sharing the resource for this dim product. Okay, it's not like that. You can just create your own database, and because I've already shown you, you need to create your own database, an own table, and you can just insert some records in the table. And to explore the data inside the table, you need to use the select statement. Fine. So let me run this now. So select star from staging dim product. So if I execute this, so I'll be able to see all the data, right? So we have a product primary key, then we have a product ID, product name, category and subcategory. So basically the star is telling extract all the columns from my table. Fine. So now let me select only the product ID and the product name. So I can do that. So that is a select. So instead of star, I need to mention the uh, um, a column a name, right? That is a product ID, and I want a product a name. Okay, you need to give the proper name. So even you can just use it as alias also, that we'll see like as we proceed. Fine. And from keyword, from uh, let me add schema, that is a staging, and table name, that is dim underscore product. Okay, so let me run this. Yes, so I'm able to fetch only the product ID and the product name. So here the main idea is, so when I say a star, so by default it will fetch all the columns, and if I don't want to fetch all the columns, I can just select the specific columns. So and that column name you need to mention over here, right? So this is all about the select statements. So now we'll see how we can create a table in a different way, and So how we can upload the data if already the table is created, okay? Because so manually inserting the records inside the table is hectic task, right? So even in the real time we'll not be using that. So we'll see the different approaches, like how we can create a table, and after creating a table, how we can upload some data in bulk. Fine, so let's do that. So what I'll do, I'll be using this test db. So inside this test db we have a different schema, that is a public schema, right? So let me create one schema. Okay, this is how we create like manually. Okay, if I want to create a schema, I can just create it. I can give a schema name. So let me give a schema name as a vendor data, vendor data. So let me save this. You can see, so vendor data has been created, and inside this schema I can create what, I can create a table also, right? So if you can see, so I can create a schema, I can create a table. So other ways, if I try to expand this particular schema, and let me scroll down here, and right now we don't have any tables here, right? So let me go and create a table. So let me create a table. So here I'll give a table name as a customer. Fine, I'll give a customer. And if you go to the columns here, so here I can manually add the columns, like I can add the name, uh, for example, the customer ID. Fine, I'll add the customer ID, and the data type I'll select a varchar, var, and the length I'll just add 50 here. Fine, so let me add few more columns. This other way, right? So the zip code, and I'll add a varchar, character weighting. I'll add 50 here. So let me add few more, like city. City also is character weighting, and 50 here. Then state code, let me add this also, character weighting. State code, let me add 20. Let me add two more columns, like date time created, and this could be of variable character varying, and I'll make it 30. And let me add one more, a last column, and this column is also a date time updated. Fine, and character varying, and let me add this also 30. Fine, so now let's save this. So as soon as I save this, you can see a table got created. This is another way. So I'm not writing any query here, so this is the other way directly I can create the table. So here if I try to open the properties, right, and if I want to modify it, I can modify it. If you click on here SQL, right, so here, like, you can access the different parameters like security parameters, constraints, advanced columns, right? So if I want to modify it, you can just do all the stuff here. Fine, so let me close this. um, so now if I do like select a star, that is select a star from my schema is vendor data dot customer. Okay, customer. So let me run this, and right now we don't have any data here, right? And what is the other way to insert the data? Of course I need to go manually use this insert into command, right? So that is big hectic task. So I'll just show you one data set. So if I go to my customer data, so this is my customer data. It's the same columns whatever I mentioned, like I have customer, zip code, city, state code, date, time, date updated, right? You can see like I have many records here, so I can't use this insert into so that I can go and execute this commands, right? So I want to upload this directly inside the table. So let's see how we can just do that. Fine, so let me go to my page admin, and here let me select the table and go to insert and export data. Just click onto this particular option. So here you have two options. Make sure I've just checked the import because importing the data set, and here you need to give the file name. So this is my file name. I'll just select it and click on open, and the format is CSV and the encoding is UTF-8. You can go to the columns. You can see it page admin is smart and is able to fetch all the column which is there in my data, right? So we have the customer ID, zip code, city, state code, date time created and date time updated. In case some of the columns is not selected, you can just click onto this drop down and manually select those particular columns. Fine. And the important part is header, right? So make sure you check this because in my data set, even you saw that we have a data, the first row is header, right? And the advanced settings you can just modify, like what is the delimiter, quote and escape characters, the null string, and all those things you can just modify from this particular sections under the options. So let me click OK. As soon as I click OK, so here you can see successfully completed. I'm able to get all the data inside this particular table. So let me check. Let me execute this command once again. That is select star from vendor data. Yes, successfully we are able to fetch all the records, right? You can see I created the table that to manually, and I'm able to insert all the records inside my table. This is very simple. This is all about the first part, and even I'll give you a few assignments or some data sets where you should be able to create a table, create a database, and create some schemas, okay, and make sure like what are the different columns or data types, you can just create by yourself, try with some data types and check the errors, okay, fix those things, because this is just a first part where you're learning the baby steps like how to create a database, a table, a schema, how to insert a record. Okay, so these are some of the baby steps. You should be very confident about it as we proceed to the advanced section, right? So this is all about the first part of SQL.